For a little while, Jalin Hyatt was considered the number one wide receiver prospect in this year's draft. After winning the Blitnikoff at Tennessee and showcasing blazing speed and incredible production, Jalin Hyatt began to fly up draft boards, and many were wondering if he could be the next great NFL receiver. Unfortunately, as time went on, Hyatt's draft stock would end up falling as he went from a late first round or second round pick to ultimately falling to the third round. The New York Giants got an insane steal with Hyatt, and in today's video, I want to talk about who he is, talk about his Tennessee career, why his draft stock fell, and why he could still be super insane for them. But before we get started, be sure to leave a like if you want to support today's video, subscribe if you're new and love football content, and let me know what player, team, topic, or situation I could cover next. Now, let's get started and talk about the insane rise of Jalin Hyatt. The Hyatt family grew up in Irmo, South Carolina, and Jalin always loved football. He started playing flag football at the age of 5 at the local YMCA, and his love for the game only grew. He became better and better, and was also quicker than all the other players around him, and he apparently modeled his game after Davante Adams. Right before high school, he said he discovered his elite athleticism. He said, quote, "My 8th grade year I was slow, but by my 9th grade year, I started getting in the weight room, and I guess my body started forming up. I went to a regional opening, and that was my first time running a 40, and I ran a 4.4, so I knew I had confidence after that. The next time I ran it, I got it down to a 4.31, and then the last time I ran it, it was a 4.29. My confidence started to get higher and higher, and I was faster than everybody else." He said he also knew he could play at the college level when he got his first offer as a sophomore in high school. More and more offers would flood in for Jalin, leading him to the point where he could choose from multiple schools. After his junior year, he decided to pledge to Virginia Tech and end his recruitment. He committed to the Hokies over offers from Tennessee, Michigan, Penn State, and Arkansas, and he said, quote, "I love Hokie Nation, and I believe in their coaches, and I'm ready to work." He became the third pledge in their 2020 class, and he had a huge year, which made his stock rise. As a junior at Dutch Fork High School, he caught 71 passes for 1,316 yards. But then he started to get wide eyes. He decommitted from the Hokies and later opened up his option. As a senior, he had now blown up into a 4-star recruit and added more offers to his impressive sheet. He finished his senior season with 66 catches for 1,361 yards and 26 touchdowns. His high school finished with a 14-0 record, and he was arguably the fastest player in the state of South Carolina and a finalist for the state's Mr. Football Award. He eventually would narrow his choices down to Tennessee, Miami, Florida, and Oregon, but would choose Jeremy Pruitt and the Tennessee Volunteers. He said, quote, "I just felt Tennessee was just the right school, to be honest. I'm just very excited to be a Vol." It also helped that his former high school teammate Bryce Thompson was a corner for the Vols, so maybe that helped him go there as well. Another fun fact about Jalin Hyatt is that he has a younger brother named Devin, who is currently a huge recruit and recently transferred to IMG Academy, and will have a much bigger recruitment than Jalin had, and that's saying something. One Tennessee scout was super excited about what Hyatt brought to the offense, as he said, quote, "Hyatt ran a verified 4.31 at the opening, and that speed will bring an element to the offense that Tennessee hasn't had in a long time. To go along with that blazing speed, he has a 6'2" frame, and his film is filled with winning 50-50 balls, and he's going to be great." Scouts were also super high on him, as according to 24/7 Sports, Hyatt was a 4-star recruit, the number 33 wide receiver, and the 197th best player in the class of 2020. So, how would Hyatt end up doing in Rocky Top? When Jalin arrived in Knoxville, he was taken under the wing of Velus Jones Jr., and it turns out he'd be a great mentor for him. With guys such as Jawan Jennings, Marquez Callaway, and Tyler Bird leaving, he'd also have a chance to see some early playing time. In 2020, Hyatt would finish with 20 catches for 276 yards and 2 touchdowns. 2021 was supposed to be a breakout season for him, but he was stuck behind both Cedric Tillman and Velus Jones, and those two would go on to have a great year, while he pretty much stagnated at the same stat line he had the year before. He finished with 21 receptions for 226 yards and 2 scores. Going into 2022, though, Hyatt was ready to take off. "I believe I can be the best in the country. That's the mindset you have to have in the SEC, and I believe I can go out there and be the best player in the league or in the country, and also put that on film." That's quite the statement from a 3rd or 4th string receiver on a team, but he'd end up making it work. Hyatt would start out the year strong with a touchdown against Ball State before he'd have his breakout performance against Pitt. In an overtime thriller, Hyatt caught 11 passes for 73 yards. That was the day that the world was introduced to him, but just a couple weeks later, it would blow up even more. Cedric Tillman ended up getting hurt early on in the season, so Hyatt became the main target for Hendon Hooker. He had 166 yards and 2 touchdowns in a win over Akron, had 2 scores in their road victory over number 25 LSU, and would get a chance to play against Alabama. In a game that I was personally at, Hyatt had one of the best receiving performances in college football history, as he caught 6 passes for 207 yards and 5 touchdowns as the Vols beat the Crimson Tide 52-49. Hyatt became a national name and a national superstar that night, and he said, quote, "To be honest, I didn't know I was going to have 5 touchdowns. That's a lot. It was just the looks that they were showing us, and we knew that coming into the game we could do that, and I'm just proud of everybody in the locker room, and we're on to the next one." After that performance, Hyatt followed it up with 7 catches for 174 yards and 2 touchdowns, and have another insane performance against number 19 Kentucky. In that game, he had 138 yards and 2 touchdowns, but to him, the individual stats didn't matter. They needed to beat Georgia. In what was the biggest letdown game of the 2022 season, Tennessee didn't show up against the number 3 Bulldogs, and they lost 27-13. This didn't end their playoff hopes yet, but it was going to make it very difficult. He followed it up with 7 catches for 146 yards and a touchdown against Mizzou before they'd have that weird game against South Carolina. The Gamecocks won 63-38, Hendon Hooker tore his ACL, and they were eliminated from the SEC championship and the college football playoff. It was a disastrous night for the Volunteers, and their 56-0 shutout over Vanderbilt the following weekend wouldn't do anything to change that. Hyatt would end up opting out of their bowl game and finish the year with 67 catches for 1,267 yards and 15 touchdowns. After the season was over, he was named a unanimous All-American, a first-team All-SEC player, and he won the Biletnikoff Award for the best receiver in college football. Right now, he is a buzzy name for the 2023 NFL Draft, but not everyone's sold on him. Right now, he's projected to go at the end of the first round, with some saying he'll slip into the second round. Here's one scouting report on him. Quote, "Jalin Hyatt is arguably the best athlete at wide receiver in the nation. He's light on his feet, and that allows him to accelerate quickly up the field. He is also very good at changing directions quickly due to his ability to sink his hips and burst in another direction. Both of these skills allow him to manipulate defensive backs, which will give him leverage when he breaks his routes. When he gets the ball in his hands, he's very difficult to bring down, and this is due to his ability to separate from the defense and all defenders." Okay, so based on that scouting report, you think that Hyatt is the next can't-miss prospect. Well, some are concerned. 1, it only seems he's a deep threat. 2, he didn't really have many routes while he was at Tennessee. And 3, he just seems to be a little bit too one-dimensional. That didn't stop the New York Giants from taking Hyatt with their 3rd round pick, 73rd overall. And in my opinion, they got an insane steal. Despite Hyatt's limitations, I think he's someone who can take the top off of an NFL defense and will make big plays. Do I ever think he's going to catch 100 passes or have 1,500 yards receiving? Probably not. But Hyatt's one of those players that's going to make highlight plays. The defense will have to scheme around him because of his speed, and I believe will be productive for a few years. There still is a decent chance that Hyatt could end up being a bust, because if defenders figure out how to stop his one-dimensional game, then he's pretty much done. But I'm going to take an optimistic approach and say that Hyatt ends up panning out. He'll play alongside his former teammate Eric Gray, and I'm very excited to see how this Giants offense will look. But what do you guys think? If you're a Tennessee or a Giants fan, what do you think of Hyatt? What do you think of the offense? And what player should I cover next? Be sure to let me know down below. Leave a like if you want to support today's video, subscribe if you're new, and check out all my other videos on the end screen. I hope to see you guys again soon, but until next time, peace.